Hi, today I'm joined by Caroline Haines, a professional health coach and part of the team behind the Tree of Life anti-cancer lifestyle community and program. Caroline, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good stuff. Right then, so for those that don't know you, let's start with a bit of a backstory. So tell us who you are, where you grew up, and what you loved to do when you were a child.
So I'm Caroline. I grew up in Portsmouth, so by the sea. I now live in Surrey. And when I was a child, because I live by the sea, I did a lot of sailing. So my parents and my grandparents were sailors. So every summer holidays, we would borrow my grandparents' boat and we'd sail over to France. And that sounds quite glamorous, but actually it wasn't. You had to wee in a bucket and chuck it over the side.
Nice.
And it was kind of days at sea with me and my brother fighting with each other. So it wasn't this luxurious yacht. It was I used to do a lot of dinghy sailing as well. I used to be in the national youth squad, so every weekend I'd be doing competitions or training. And again, that sounds quite fun, but actually, in the middle of winter, you'd have to train and, all the ropes would be iced up. You'd be getting this freezing cold, water in your face. So, it gives you quite a lot of kind of grit and determination sailing through the winter months.
Yeah, amazing. I can resonate with that. I'm actually having a go at spending quite a bit of time in a motorhome. So I'm not quite weeing in a bucket, but parking near public toilets. But amazing. So I wonder if your time by the sea has been kind of part of creating who you are today, because there's a lot of kind of thought and contemplation for me personally when I'm around water. I don't know, how do you think that kind of influenced your life today?
Yeah, I love being by the sea. My parents still live by the sea, so I go back there quite a lot, but unfortunately I don't get to spend as much time as I would like to by the sea at the moment. But yeah, it's very, calming, isn't it? Being
Yeah.
and also kind of understanding that the power of the tides, because where they live, sometimes there's a really high tide, then everything will be flooded, and you really kind of understand the power of nature that's just all around. It's quite incredible.
Yeah, the connectedness of it all, definitely.
Mm.
Good. Well, not for this one, but in future, I'd love to explore the cross-channel trips a bit more detail, but we'll do that next time. So it sounds like that was something you loved as far as experiences, but what and maybe you don't get as much time to do it now, but what do you like to do now when you've got some spare time?
Well, I've got 4 children, so I don't have an awful lot of spare they all play rugby and football, so weekends are kind of mainly taken up with ferrying them around to matches basically, and to training. But obviously I like to make time for myself as well, because it can't just be ferrying them around. So I love doing exercise. There's a HIIT class at the gym that I go to that I absolutely love. So I try and do that kind of 3 or 4 times a week. And they set the studio up, so they've got treadmills, they've got weights, and they've got boxing. And you spend, different amounts of time on these different stations, and everyone wears these heart rate monitors and they have them on the screen. And
so you're in competition. Your heart rate in competition with others. Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so they're right on the treadmills, you need to get into the red zone, which is the highest kind of heart rate, and so you have to, obviously you can't not work hard, you have to work hard.
Okay.
And so I love doing that. I also love walking. I try to do an hour of walking a day, and I love listening to podcasts. And on my walks, usually they're usually about kind of health or nutrition or wellness. I'm also a trustee of the PTA at one of my kids' schools, so that takes up quite a lot of time. I love reading. I've got my eyes are definitely bigger than my calendar in terms of ordering those. So all of these books arrive, and I've got there's piles of books in every corner of the house with that are kind of half read, or not even half read, 10% read, some of them. And then other than that, I just I love seeing my friends and making connections and having fun with my friends.
Great. All good stuff that shows you practice what you preach. So and I can imagine so listening to lots of podcasts, reading books, there's probably lots of new things and inspiration. What was the last kind of passionate debate you had?
Well, there is a continual passionate debate that happens in my house probably every day, which is about screen time and the amount of screen time that my children are allowed. Obviously, they're always campaigning for more screen time, and they're always telling me that it's not fair because all of their friends get, more time on their phones or their screens or gaming time. So there's a constant passionate debate in my house about that, because obviously, I don't believe that they should have unlimited access to screens. So we have various, I'm going to say rules, but that sounds quite, that sounds very strict. I mean, they do like to call me rules because I'm always like, right, there's a new rule that's happening. Yeah, so there's a lot of debate in my house about screen time.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm sounds maybe similar to you. So Arthur, my son, is 9. He's 10 in December. Yeah, I try not to have specific rules. I try not to tell him what to do. My aim is to give him all the facts and kind of coach him to hopefully make the right decision. But yeah, I'm about. So Dr. Catherine Steele, who we work with, recommended a book called Between by Sarah Quell Smith, I think it is. So that is for tweens, basically. So that's from 8 to 13-year-olds. I'm not quite on the chapter about digital devices, but yeah, I'm interested to see from a more of a progressive angle how to handle screen time. But Arthur's pretty good. I'll be like, do you know how long you've been on there? It's good. Diversity is important, so it's good to do other stuff. So good stuff.
Probably take a leaf out of your book.
There you go.
Prescriptive. I mean, they definitely think I am too prescriptive with it.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Good stuff. And then what about things that make you laugh? When was the last time you laughed out loud?
Well, I mean, my youngest child is 3, so it's easy to laugh, I think, when you've got a 3-year-old, because they're such loons, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're like silly dancing or singing, and he's just started calling us fam, all of us, instead of family. So we'll sit at the table and be like, fam, pass me the ketchup or something. Or what did he say this morning? He said this morning, I didn't get him a drink quick enough this morning at breakfast time. He told me I was draining his energy.
Love it. Excellent.
And then he said, I've almost got a tummy ache, which I thought was funny, because I was like, I'm
Okay.
sure you can almost have a tummy ache. But
Nice. Is that connected to his body, you see? So brilliant. Excellent. Good stuff. And then, all right, let's get to know you a bit more. What time by the sea and your family is obviously kind of big inspirations, but what is there anything that mainly that inspired you to do what you do today?
well, before I became a coach, I had a different career. So I did a maths degree when I was at university, and actually, this is a conversation I'm having with my teenager at the moment. I'm say to him, I wish I'd actually thought more at the time about what career path I'd chosen, because I kind of fell into the career before I was a coach. I kind of fell into that career. So I worked in banking and finance, and I liked it, but I didn't love it. It was okay. I'm grateful for all of the experience and the kind of skills that I learned when I was there. And, I did a lot of traveling, and, I had my maternity leaves with some of my children, and, the pay was good and it was a good place to be, but I kind of knew that it wasn't ever what I really wanted to do. It wasn't very meaningful to me. And when I was there, I had career coaching. And actually, after I had that experience, I found it so empowering. Actually, that it completely changed my life. And like prior to that, I always kind of thought that I maybe wanted to be a nutritionist. But actually, once I saw this coach, I then realized that you could, have this kind of transformative experience and ask these questions and help people to have this transformation, but also combine it with health as well, which is why I then, retrained and became a health coach.
Oh, amazing. I mean, it's funny thing, isn't it? If that person must have been inspiring for you to feel a kind of a benefit from it. I wonder if they hadn't have been that person, where you might have gone. Maybe you'd have specialised in just one area rather than kind of more of a holistic approach as a
Yeah,
coach.
yeah,
Yeah, interesting.
maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've ever come across a coach that isn't inspiring, because it's not necessarily the person, it's the questions that they ask you, you know, the thinking that they get you to do as the coachee that
Mm.
is the powerful bit.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, there's definitely. I personally think questions definitely show a sign of intelligence ultimately, and a connectedness to the conversation as well, and things like that. So
Yeah.
good stuff. And how about a proudest moment professionally so far?
So last week, actually, we had I organised this event for NHS coaches, and it was our first face-to-face conference summit that we had in London. And yeah, I was really proud of that, because it's the first time that we've done it. I mean, actually, it's the first time that I've organised an event like that as well. But we just had really good feedback, and all of the speakers that we had. So we had, you know, a whole lineup of speakers throughout the day that were just brilliant and really inspiring. And actually, it's the first time that everyone had come together kind of face to face. And, you know, sometimes being a coach, it can be a little bit isolating, because you work one to one with people, and you don't work with colleagues as such, you know, so you don't necessarily always know what they're doing. So it was just a really lovely event to kind of connect everybody up and everyone share experiences of coaching, and, you know, get lots of kind of tips and advice. And yeah, it was brilliant. It was
Very
really
good.
fun.
Very good. Do you want to give us a quick shout out to what that was called, or anybody interested can find out more information?
Well, I mean, it's been and gone now, and I
Yeah.
haven't organised the next one, but it was for
Okay.
I worked with South West London Training Hubs on it for the NHS. It was the NHS Health and Wellbeing Coaches Summit.
Very good. All right. Good stuff. And how about a light bulb moment, a kind of a pivotal moment? Are any that stand out on your journey to where you are today?
I think when I first started working for the NHS, my clinical director at the time was showing me some information, and he showed me one stat that's really kind of stuck with me. And that was that 40% of NHS spend goes on managing long-term conditions. And
Mm,
obviously, there's less than 40% of us have got long-term conditions. But actually, you know, that was a real kind of light bulb moment about how coaching can really impact that number, actually, because I think coaching works really, really well proactively to help people proactively manage their health. So potentially before they get a long-term condition, to help people, you know, affect whether they get a long-term condition or not. In fact, you know, things like diabetes, for example, can be prevented and can be reversed as well. So, you know, that stat really stuck with me. And, you know, actually that's quite inspiring to think that, you know, coaches are hopefully going to play a part in terms of, you know, population health and the prevention of diseases as well.
mhm. Yeah, an empowerment, a transfer of knowledge, often, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Which is a great segue into the Tree of Life. So that, yeah, the kind of reason we're talking is that you're part of the approved group of coaches that are behind the Tree of Life anti-cancer lifestyle community and program. Yeah, we love that you are part of the team. I just wondered, what do you feel makes Tree of Life different? We love to say it's revolutionary, but yeah, what do you think sets Tree of Life apart from other alternative options?
Well, I haven't really seen anything like the Tree of Life before, actually. So, you know, I think it's quite unique. But it also, you know, it encompasses everything, doesn't it? From, you know, sleep to nutrition to movement to stress. But also, it doesn't, you know, discount conventional medicine at all. So, you know, it works alongside conventional medicine as well. So, you know, I think it's really powerful. And I think people going through the Tree of Life will naturally resonate or be really interested in different aspects of it, and want to find out more potentially about, you know, different aspects. And that will be really personal to the people. But also, I think the community aspect will be really powerful as well. So, bringing people together, having that accountability can be really powerful.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, when we were creating the program, we felt that for something that's online and on demand, it's very difficult to give a specific prescriptive approach to life, because that's just not realistic. Everybody is unique, everybody's life is different. So that's where one-on-one cancer coaching comes in with somebody like yourself, where you can give something prescriptive because you know the individual person. So yeah, it was important to make something that speaks to many people as a stepping stone towards coaching. Good stuff. So we also designed Tree of Life for every stage of cancer, so from prevention to diagnosis and treatment to survivors and also caregivers of loved ones with cancer. Which group of people do you feel Tree of Life is going to help the most?
Oh God, that's hard, because I think it can help. I mean, obviously it can help all of those groups. That is very hard. I mean, I think, obviously diagnosis is going to be a really transitional time for people, because they're going to be feeling very kind of frightened and out of control and let down and worried. And actually, going in with the Tree of Life at that point can potentially feel like they're doing something really positive, when actually the other areas of their life might feel out of control and not so positive. So I think that'll have a really big impact at that stage.
Yeah, agreed. And it's important to note that the Tree of Life community, the whole of module 1 of the program, that includes live group education with a professional health coach, and the entire 7-module workbook are actually included in the free plan. Considering so much is available for free, how do you think this helps people to get started, especially those that are affected by cancer, who may be in a very vulnerable place emotionally and potentially financially, and those that may be struggling to pay for bespoke support?
Yeah, exactly. People aren't going to want to pay for something that potentially they haven't tried and they don't trust. How do you know that it's not? How do you know that it's for you? So I think giving it for free, those first few modules for free is really key, especially, as you said, for people that are, potentially not working because they can't, because of their condition. So yeah, I think that makes it really accessible.
Yeah, good stuff. And you already mentioned community. So yeah, community support and social connections are an integral part of Tree of Life. There's actually specific lessons in module 1 about this area. What's your personal definition of a community?
I think a community is a group of people that you feel some sort of affinity to. So perhaps you have a shared sense of purpose, but I guess within that community, you don't have to have the same opinions, right? They can challenge your thinking, certainly, but finding people who you feel like you can be yourself with, so you can be vulnerable with, and they can be vulnerable with you without judgment.
Yeah, good stuff. And what do you feel are the positives of surrounding yourself with that sort of group of people?
I think it can really help on the journey that people are going to go on. You can learn from them and ask questions if you need to, because there's going to be people within that community everyone's going to be at different stages on their journey, but you're all working towards a similar goal, and that can make you feel that sense of togetherness, of being in it alone. And it's building those social networks and that network, as you mentioned.
Yeah, good stuff. So the talked a bit about Tree of Life, the module 1. The program itself is 7 modules. So we cover the free module 1 is on stress management and emotional well-being, and then the modules that do require a paid subscription, they're behavior change, nutrition, exercise, sleep, gut health, and protection from toxins. So yeah, you did already mention it, but yeah, one of the reasons we feel it's revolutionary is because there's kind of those individual things out there, but there's nothing that we've seen that puts it all in one place, which we absolutely love. What improvements do you see members of Tree of Life making as they progress through the program, such as in their first week, or after the first month, or after month 2, and so on?
So making changes is hard, isn't it? We all know that. I'm sure everyone's kind of tried to make changes before, and sometimes people are successful and sometimes you're not. But you've only got to think about New Year's Eve resolutions, for example. When people make New Year's Eve resolutions, and then sometimes it can be hard to actually stick to those changes. So I think when people are going through the tree of life, obviously that first module is stress. So I think that's kind of building up people's resilience to make that change in the first place. So people feel, confident because they're building up slowly with these stress modules and trying to reduce stress. And that's going to help them when they try to make further changes. And I think as they go through, changing habits can take quite a long time. So to change a habit, you have to put quite a lot of conscious thought into it, certainly in the first few months. So making these changes slowly and building on these changes kind of month on month on month, but not trying to change everything all at once, because that's too kind of overwhelming and hard. So just making these small changes and cementing them in. And then once they're cemented in after a few months, and that time period is going to be different for everyone, but then making some further changes. So I think, by the time you get to up to kind of 12 months, people are going to feel like they're in a really good place, and like, they can do this. And if they want to make more changes, they can. People are going to feel, confident in their ability to make changes as well.
Change is a process, and small stepping stones often can give people the confidence to keep going. So one of mine on my own journey was wild swimming or super cold showers. That it's so cold I don't want to get in, but it's a challenge I know I can win and be successful at. So some of those quick wins are important to give you confidence to keep going. And what do you see as the barriers to change, and how might you approach that as a health coach?
I think the barriers for change are going to be, not engaging with the content. So, when you're going through the tree of life, making sure that you're not scrolling through your phone at the same time, and, you haven't got the TV on in the background, not engaging with the content and just going through it as because you feel like you have to, that's never going to be very kind of inspirational for change. And I guess not being involved in the community, I think that can really help. Not asking for help when you need it, not setting up accountability. So I think my advice would basically be to immerse yourself in the content, get as much help as you can from the community, from the coaches, from your family, from your support network. Tell people what changes you're going to make so that you have that support network around you, and don't be afraid to be vulnerable when you're finding it hard as well.
Yeah, agreed. Brilliant. Thanks so much, Caroline. It's been lovely learning a bit more about your personal and professional life. For those that are watching or listening to this, you can find Caroline Haines in the Tree of Life community and program. Just go to www.thecancercoach.org and you'll find all links on there to sign up for a free plan. Or if you're researching on behalf of a workplace wellness provider, an insurer, an employer, or a cancer treatment provider, you can also book a demo to see how our programs can help your organization. That's it for this one. Thanks so much, Caroline. We'll catch everybody on the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.